Hello, today we're going to be talking about Selenium IDE, automated testing tool. I will introduce you to what automation is, what Selenium company is, organization is, and what Selenium IDE can do for you. We're also going to be talking about installation issues, how to install the tool, where to get the right version, how to pay attention to the versioning structure, to compatibility issues, and we will run one or two instances of a test case. We'll try to automate at least one test case and talk about some of the GUI features. Where you're going to find information about Selenium IDE, on which I'm going to be based my presentation today. I will show you a place in our directory where you will be able to locate Selenium IDE information. It's under partnov.com/data/Yana, and Selenium section is the one that is somewhere in the middle of the page. I'm going to start with part 1, IDE Overview, and this is where I'm going to spend majority of time today. We're going to touch slightly simple features presentation, but majority of the topics that we're discussing today will be coming from IDE Overview presentation. So what is test automation? It's a process of writing computer program to do testing that would otherwise need to be done manually. And it sounds simple enough, which it is, until you actually start implementing automated procedures using different tools. Selenium IDE is one of these tools, and we will be talking about what Selenium IDE can do for you. We use software to control the execution of tests, and that's very important part to understand that majority of activities that are happening especially in the area of time savings, are activities related to test execution. Even though there is a lot of time spent on designing and creating those automated tests. So it's two-part process. One is about creating those test scripts, automated test cases, and another part is execution of those tests. There are two different types of test automation: code-driven testing and graphical user interface testing. Code-driven testing requires tool to go directly to the code, and the tool or another type of software program drives what is happening within the code and the test. So there is no interface involved for the application. There is no tool with a graphical user interface like Selenium IDE involved in code-driven testing. That's kind of a rule. Of course, there are exceptions and different type of approaches. But majority of the automated testing of the code-driven procedures are based on actual language or scripts that go directly into the code and exercise certain conditions within the code. It's a completely different approach when we start looking at automation from the GUI perspective. There are quite a few tools that help you test application from the user standpoint, from the graphical user interface level, which is a black box testing if we start referring to the type of testing using manual testing terminology. Selenium IDE is a tool that allows you to do graphical user interface testing. It's a tool that goes into application under test, mimicking actions of a user on the GUI level. So in many cases, Selenium IDE, just like any other tool, will allow user to pretty much do the same set of steps, execute the same type of conditions as would manual user do without any tools. So what are the advantages of automation? First of all, it's a reliable approach to testing. Tests perform precisely the same set of operations every time they run. Therefore, you are eliminating human error. You're getting rid of this human error element, which present during every test execution effort, which is causing on many levels and many times fairly serious problems with test results. You see test results that are different depending on who is executing those test cases and how well a person understands the actual application. Automated tests are repeatable. You can test how software reacts under repeated execution of the same operation. You can repeat this operation as many times as you want. And we will look today at the operation, at the test case that I'm planning to demonstrate for you. And run it multiple times, as many times as you want it to be, and your results are expected to be fairly reliable due to the fairly defined structure of your test script. Your test scripts are fairly reusable. You can reuse them. If you create a structure, predefined structure for your test scripts, you're going to have smaller pieces of automated scripts, smaller pieces of functionality automated using the tool, and later on you can put those pieces together, reuse them in different combinations, in different test cases, in different type of tests, in different kind of situations when you need to generate, for example, certain type of test data. There is a speed of the automated test execution that is very important as well. Though I want to warn you that when you talk about speed of test execution in automation, you have to remember that you're only talking about making tests executed much faster. In many cases, and it's pretty much a rule of the thumb, that creating a manual test script takes way longer than creating a manual test case. And creating automated test scripts is a very tedious process that at the end, in many cases, is not flexible, while creating a test cases might be a slightly faster process, much more flexible because human can adjust to a variety of the conditions. But test execution is very long when we talk about only comparing test execution process of the manual test cases and automated test cases. So you definitely have speed savings when you speed of the test execution for automated test cases is much faster than execution of manual test cases. But in terms of creating those scripts, it's in many cases it takes longer to create automated scripts compared to manual test cases. As a result of automation, you expect better quality of the software and significant cost reduction because you're not spending that much resources and money on test execution. So what is Selenium? After reviewing what automation in general is and advantages of having automated tool, we are moving into very specific type of tool. We're talking about Selenium. So Selenium is actually not one tool, it's a set of tools. It's a set of tools that supports rapid development of test automation for web-based application. So it's very important that you have a really good understanding that this tool was designed and created for automation of testing of web-based applications. Specifically, applications that run on Firefox browsers, on Mozilla group of browsers. We already talked about approach that Selenium scripts are taking. They're not code-driven tests, they're GUI-based tests. So Selenium tool allows user to mimic the actions of a black box tester, approach testing from the GUI interface, and record those actions. So scripts can be recorded and they will be written as a result as HTML scripts. Important that you remember that, because our scripts that we save will be saved with the extension of HTML format. In addition to HTML, which is the original format of Selenium IDE scripts, when you start moving into other tools outside of Selenium IDE that are still part of the Selenium set of tools, you will see that they're pretty much majority of the commonly used languages like Java, C#, Perl, PHP, Python, Ruby are being supported by Selenium group of tools. Not through Selenium IDE, but through another set of Selenium tools. Selenium set of tools also provides support for various browsers, i.e. Firefox, Opera, Safari, and Google Chrome. I will give you a full list of supported browsers, and I will show you where to find this information. It also supports execution of the test cases on various platforms, Windows, Linux, and Macintosh. A little bit of a history about Selenium. It's a fairly new tool, even though it's been on the market from 2004, and it was originally named JavaScript Functional Tester. It has 100% JavaScript and HTML functionality, written only in these two languages, which limits Selenium IDE in many cases. And when I will conduct a demo of the tool, you will see where those limitations are. It's an open source. It's also very important to remember, because this tool has quite a few various issues, but it's also great to have an open source tool, because additional features, very useful functionalities are being introduced to Selenium IDE on a regular basis. It's an open source software that was released under Apache 2.0 license and can be downloaded without charge. It's also under ThoughtWorks kind of license and under their umbrella. That's the name. ThoughtWorks is the name of the organization that handles open source software development. This slide shows you on the high level where selenium is located when we talk about selenium as a chemical element. And just a few words about the history of selenium. I think that you heard about tools that were developed by the company that was called Mercury Interactive. It's a company that was developing software tools to test software that were very similar to what Selenium is right now. The difference is that these tools were and are still stay fairly expensive. So Selenium was developed as an antidote of mercury, because selenium is actually an element that treats mercury poisoning. So I mentioned a few various tools within the Selenium group of tools. Selenium IDE is the one that we will be talking about today. Selenium IDE has additional tools that support functionality that I described to you earlier, but they're being run and executed using another tool, Selenium RC, which stands for remote control. R stands for remote, C stands for control. So Selenium RC allows additional, more robust functionality of automated testing tool. Selenium Core tool works with Selenium RC and it now allows displaying and presenting test results information in a very easy to read and understand form. And Selenium Grid is kind of advanced tool that allows configuration with various types of technology for some fairly advanced tasks. So we're going to start with Selenium IDE and learn about what this tool is about. It's the first tool that was developed as part of Selenium tools, and it has a very specific purpose. First of all, I want to explain what Selenium IDE is, and very often it's being referred to as SIDE. So Selenium IDE is Selenium Integrated Development Environment. I stands for integrated, D stands for development, E stands for environment. It's a Firefox add-on. And I think that at this point you kind of understood that there's something that needs to be set up and something that needs to be reviewed before the tool can actually support multi-browser testing, because I mentioned several times that it's a tool that was created for testing web applications. But also, you know that Selenium IDE is the tool that is coming from the Firefox. It's a Firefox add-on, and this add-on allows you to record, edit, and debug your tests. Selenium IDE provides an easy-to-use interface for developing and running individual test cases or entire test suites. And test suites are being treated very differently in any kind of automated tool as a general rule. It's much more defined concept of test suites and much more inflexible compared to flexibility with the test suites when we think about them in terms of manual testing. Selenium IDE scripts in the companies mostly are used to record and kind of define certain types of functionalities of the application and later on run them against Selenium RC. And that's very important to remember because, as I said, majority of the companies use Selenium IDE as the first step in their automated testing procedures. So majority of the companies will use Selenium IDE only to define certain things for their automated tests and later on actually complete the whole automated testing process through Selenium RC, remote control. So what can Selenium IDE do? One more time, it can record, playback, and edit. This technique is being called record and playback, and this is exactly what we're going to do in a few minutes after we go through the process of installing the tool. Again, very important to remember, this is the first step in the whole automated testing process. You need the ability to record, play back, and edit your scripts fairly easily and quickly, and Selenium IDE allows you to do that. The most important part of Selenium IDE is the ability of this tool to intelligently identify components of the page, identify object IDs, names, location using ActPath, locator strategy, just information about elements on your page. And that's the biggest value of Selenium IDE, intelligent identification of the components of your page and your elements under test. Other very convenient feature. It has this autocomplete functionality for the user to review, locate, and use Selenium commands. It allows you to walk through your test cases and test suites, and it has quite a few very basic debug and set breakpoints features. Again, remember that Selenium IDE is IDE, Integrated Development Environment. You can save tests as HTML. You can export as other supported programming languages. Again, very important feature, keeping in mind that Selenium IDE is the first step in the overall automated testing structure, where your tests will be started in Selenium IDE in HTML format, and later on they will be exported into other programming languages. You have ability to extend functionality of Selenium using user extensions, which is also a great addition to Selenium core functionality. And now we're going to be moving into how to install Selenium IDE. It's important that you understand that you have the right version of Firefox. I did mention several times that Firefox is a browser that is required to work with Selenium IDE. So we should have Firefox installed, but not any kind of Firefox. We need Firefox 3.3 installed on the computer. Any versions 4 point something, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, or anything that come out after this presentation will not be supported by the version of Selenium that I will demo today. There are new developments, there are new features, there is new functionality in Selenium IDE. This tool is very popular, and this tool needs to accommodate all advanced features of software development, web application development. But because it's an open source, there are quite a few features that are not fully reliable and fully compatible between different versions of the browsers, tools, and the actual application. So it's very important that you remember that the version of the Firefox that we will be using is 3.6. That's the only version of Firefox that will be working with the version of the Selenium IDE application. We have a link here provided for you to be able to locate Firefox 3.6 version, so you can later on download specifically that version. You don't necessarily have to go to old apps application. There are quite a few other places where you can locate this application, but you absolutely have to have Firefox 3.6. I have an installation instructions here in case you need them. I'm not going to be going through them. Again, I will try to concentrate our attention only on the areas that are important for us to understand and review before you actually start doing it yourself. So once you verify that you have your Firefox 3.6, you're going to go to seleniumhq.org download, and I'm going to go with you. You're going to find yourself on this page on the download tab, and you're going to have quite a few options here. So what you need to do, you need to go to Selenium IDE section. Selenium IDE section will get updated most current version of Selenium IDE. As you can see, today is beginning of December, and we just had a new version of Selenium IDE. You're welcome to use this one, is fairly reliable, but my presentation and what I recommend is to use version 1.0.10, simply because this version is compatible with Firefox 3.6, and exercises that I will be showing you are based on the functionality of this version. Quite a few things, as I said, are being changed, and defaults are being switched from one to another based on what is happening on the market today, which is a good thing, but still application is not 100% tested and reliable in that regard. So we're trying to stick with the previous version. So how do you find this 1.010 version? Going back to Selenium IQ page, you're going to be in Selenium IQ download section, and as I said, you're welcome to try this one, but I will show you the version that is being used for your demos. So we're going to go to previous releases. We're going to go to the section that is called Selenium IDE. And now that you know that there are quite a few other parts of Selenium, you will recognize their names, and you will not go there. You will concentrate on Selenium IDE. It's going to present you a list of various versions here. So the one that I want you to have is 1.0.10. As I mentioned earlier, again, I'm going to repeat it. You're welcome to try any version after 1.0.10 within the previous versions released list. But the one that I will be using for my purposes is 1.0.10. So you're going to locate this version right here, somewhere close to the bottom of the list. You're going to install it. It's a fairly straightforward process, and then you're going to restart Firefox. because you will need to change your settings. After you installed Firefox, after you install Selenium IDE on top of Firefox, under Tools, you're going to have a new link created. So this is your Firefox 3.6 and this is your Firefox 3.6 after you installed Selenium IDE. So you're going to have this option here, Selenium IDE, that is located right here in this particular place under Tools menu. So when you click on Selenium IDE, it's going to bring up this little pop-up window for you. And we're going to be talking about this window and about Selenium IDE functionality. I'm going to demo you a few test cases, and we're going to proceed with recording and running Selenium tests. Recording and running Selenium tests. Let me show you a test case that I want us to automate. This test case will be based on a simple functionality of logging in into application that's called Orange HRM. It doesn't really matter what kind of application we use because it's a simple login procedure, but because the application structure is fairly easy and very transparent for us to understand when it comes to Selenium IDE recording, we're going to use this application. So you can find this application at www.hrm.partnov.com. And it's an application that allows HR to manage their personnel, their human capital. This application belongs to a group of ERP products, and today we will verify that logging into this application using administrator login can be done not only during manual testing but also can be recorded using Selenium IDE tool and can be run multiple times. So this is the interface for this application, and if I had to test this functionality manually, I will login name, which can be admin, and I will click in the field and enter password. This is password value for the password field. I will click login, and I will find myself on the home page of this application where I'm greeted as a welcome admin with the greeting welcome admin, which is one of the ways to verify that I'm being treated as a correct role for this project. I logged in as admin and I'm being welcomed as admin, so I'm assuming that I'm the right I have the right role in this application, and I'm verifying that I'm on the right page of this application. I'm not taken to the bug tracker, I'm not taken to the reports functionality, I'm taken to the employee list. I'm an employee list, and this is a default home page, index page for my application. So this is what I would do as a manual tester. I'm going to verify all these things, and then I'm going to use this logout button to go back to the original page, and I will complete my test. That will be my manual test to verify that if I enter valid information into login and password field, I will find myself on the right page and having the right role in this application. Now, I will probably do this kind of task multiple times. I will have to do it every time I have to go through a regression set of tests to verify that my basic functionality of login is working properly. So multiple times to execute this test case. Fairly boring for a human eye. That's the reason we want to make sure that we can automate testing of this application. So this is our test case. We want to ensure that valid user login is working properly in our application. we expect that orange HRM index page is loaded. This is our home page, index page. We expect that correct username is displayed as part of greeting, welcome admin. And to achieve this expected result, we will have to go through the following steps. We're going to type in login into text box. We're going to type in password value. We're going to click on submit or login button, and we're going to verify that correct username is displayed. So these are our steps. Now let's see how will our tool handle those things. So first of all, I'm going to bring up this tool, and actually I'm going to create a new test case. So when I bring my tool for the first time, it's going to look like this. I'm going to put my tool, Selenium IDE tool, in my application and the test side by side so I can see both. I'm going to make them look nice next to each other. I'm going to modify my interface a little bit for Selenium IDE so I can see as much as I can on both sides. I'm going to record my script. Remember, we're going to be using a technique that is called record and playback. So right now we're going to be recording. So recording button is right here. We want to make sure that we click it and it's pushed back to allow us to record scripts. In some cases, when you install your application will be configured in a way that it starts recording right away. In some cases, you actually select when you're ready to record and when you're ready to stop recording. So the first thing that you check that the button is activated to allow you to get things recorded. So right now it's not ready to be recording. I'm gonna press it. Now I am ready. You see that it's pushed down. So when I put my mouse over it, it says now recording. Okay, so I prepared my tool. It's gonna start recording. I'm gonna click on login name and I'm gonna type in correct username. Then I'm going to click in password field and type in password. As you can see, while I'm typing, my application's tool, Selenium IDE tool, is recording what I'm doing. It's recording what I just typed into the field that has admin value, and in a few seconds after I click login, it's gonna show us what was recorded in the field for the password. Then I clicked submit. So again, you see all my steps recorded here in Selenium IDE. Now I find myself on the page where I have to verify a few things. First of all, I want to make sure that there is this welcome admin message is being displayed. So to do that, I'm going to use another functionality of Selenium IDE. I'm going to highlight a welcome admin, making sure that I do not take too much space in front and too much space behind. And then I'm going to right click, and the option that I'm going to present will be to verify text present, which equals the welcome admin. There are quite a few options available for Selenium IDE to verify different things on different elements of the page. And if you want to see everything that is available for this particular element, it's dynamically generated for you, and it's being stored under Show All Available Commands option. So if you don't see what you're looking for in the short list, you can click on Show All Available Commands, and the big script, big list of all the options available to you will be presented. For our purposes, I need something fairly simple, fairly straightforward to verify that pattern welcome admin is being recorded. And when I'm ready to run the script, after I recorded it, I will have internal workings of internal mechanism of Selenium IDE comparing the pattern of welcome admin with whatever gonna appear here. So as you can see, verify text present command is listed here, and our pattern welcome admin is being recorded here. So our last step, if you remember it from the test case description, is to log out, which we're going to do. So Selenium IDE logged us out. We're back on the login page, and we're pretty much done recording our script. So since I'm done recording, I'm gonna turn our recording off. So let's have a look at what we got recorded. We're gonna concentrate on this part only. So we have first of all, there is a base URL item here on the top of Selenium IDE, and as you can see, it records our URL, our base URL. It doesn't record the actual page where we landed, but it records our base URL, hrm.partnov.com. Here it is, hrm.partnov.com. So this is where we're going to have our scripts run and execute. This is what's going to open for us automatically. Selenium IDE does allow us to save information where we conducted recording, and this is being done in configuration section of Selenium IDE. Then once we get this base URL part recorded, we move to the table source area of our tool. Table area of our tool shows us what was recorded in a form of a table. 3 tables, as you can see: command, target, and value. So what we have in the command section, command part of the table, command column, is the list of actions, what actually you conducted or what was done automatically by Selenium IDE. So the first step is to open a very specific page that we typed into the address field, URL address field. We typed in hrm.partnov.com, and the application knew that we want to be on the login page, so it's added this information about login. Oops, move things around. So we found ourselves on login page. That was recorded. So we want the application to go to this base URL and then open this particular page if we're planning to start using it. Our next step was to go to login name field. Login name field is a label. You have something else recorded in the target field of Selenium IDE, and the something sounds like txt user name. We can easily figure out that txt is text and this is username. So we can read this script and understand that Selenium IDE recorded our action of typing into username field value of admin. When we look at the actual application, we know that the label on this field is called login name. It's not username, it's called login name. So information that Selenium IDE takes and puts in the target field doesn't come from the labels. It comes from HTML names. So Selenium IDE is going to be reading HTML names of the element and plug it into the target field. And admin is something that you typed in for this field. Next line is pretty much exactly the same set of actions but for another field. This is for the field called password. And again, password is a label for this field. The HTML name for this field is txt password, and we are typing password there. Then we clicked on something that is called submit. In this particular case, looking at our application, we know that submit is the HTML name of the push button that has a label of login. For some more complicated HTML pages, it's not going to be that easy to figure out exactly what element was recorded by Selenium IDE. But there are different tools that allow you to do that. But in our example, we can figure out that submit name is related to the login push button name. So the next step that was done after we clicked on this login button was to get our application to take us to the next page. And the next page was different. It was not a login page. It was another page, and Selenium IDE did not record this new page. It simply started confirming that on this next page you get certain information that is matching. So verify text present command was telling us that Selenium IDE recorded the pattern that we want to match next time we run this application script. So we recorded a welcome admin pattern. Here it is in the target area. As you can see, value area is very often left blank if there is nothing else that we need to use in this particular field. In some cases, we need command, we need place where we're going to be executing this command, and we need the actual value with which we will be executing or using this particular command. In case of verifying that text is present on the page, we only need to make sure that there is a command of verifying the presence of the text and the actual pattern itself. And our last step was to click Logout. And that was the link, as we can see. Even though it didn't look like one, it looked like any other element on the page. But again, Selenium IDE is good at this. It's good at recording details of the elements that you will be using. Now, we have our first script, and we will want to save it. Now, if you remember from the previous description that Selenium IDE is pretty much JavaScript and HTML, and you're going to have your test cases recorded and saved in HTML format. And that's exactly what's going to happen as a default. As you can see, we have fairly standard set of menu items: File, Edit, Options, and Help. And Help, again, fairly standard, so is File and Edit. Options might be a little bit tricky and kind of specialized and specified and customized for each application, but File and Edit will have fairly defined list of options that are similar for different type of applications. So we're going to go to File, because we know that File menu usually has an option that defines saving procedures. And it does, but in addition to expected list of save options, print options maybe, you have quite a few additional things. And you can see things are clearly separated by the top part, by the bottom part, and by something in between. So the top part is pretty much relates to the test cases, while the bottom part relates to the test suites. And I did mention to you earlier that test suites are being treated completely different in Selenium, and that's important to remember, because when we create a test case, we will never use this set of menus. We're always going to be using this set of menus. Now, back to our simple saving process. We know the difference between save and save as. Because it's a new test case, we're going to save it as and give it a unique name. Now we're gonna save our test case as Selenium test. And what is very important to remember, that extension of our test case should be HTML. It will be saved in HTML format. It's also important to remember to save it as all types. So we're gonna click it, save. And here we have our saved test case. Now, we're going to try to run our test case now that we saved it. Before we start running, we need to remember a few things. First of all, you see this lever that takes you from fast to slow. Well, because of various issues that we have in our networking, with our servers, with our environment, it's always advisable to get this lever to slow first. This is the first thing that you're going to do during test execution. You're going to put it on slow. Another thing that is very important is to remember which option we're going to use to run our test case. Again, the big difference between test suites and test cases. So we're going to use an option to play current test case always good to help Selenium IDE with running test case. So we're going to click on the top line of your test case. We're going to make sure that we're on the proper page, on the login page, and our lever is all the way to the right. And we're going to click on Play Current Test Case. See what happens. So as we're waiting for Selenium IDE to start working, we see things happen on both sides within our application and on our Selenium IDE. So what we just did, we used a technique called record and playback. We just recorded the script and now we played it back. You can see that things got played fairly fast, even though we put it on slow motion. You can play with the speed with which your execution actually occurs. You can make it fast or slow, but the first time you execute your test case or you run your test case, you want to make sure that you run it slow to eliminate as many issues as possible. And another thing, as I said, to remember that you can play your current test case, not current test suite. So you observe several things that were happening on this side, on the Selenium IDE side of the screen. You observe that there was some color coding. Some areas, if I click out of the whole set of commands, put my cursor on the bottom below commands, you will see that majority of the lines are highlighted in very pale green, and one line, which is verified text present, is highlighted in dark green. It is color coding, and this color coding tells us what actually happened during test execution. Because open, type, click and wait, and click are commands that require some type of action, during execution, light green indicated that Selenium IDE simply completed the step, that it was done, finished. There were no problems opening, typing, clicking and waiting, and clicking. It's another story with verified text present. It's a verification point. It's your expected result versus actual result, if you use terminology of manual testing. So in manual testing, you have your expected result, and this is exactly what we did when we recorded verified text present. Now we execute our test case, and this dark green indicated that our actual result, where we actually located welcome admin pattern on the page, matched what we expected. So dark green indicated completion of the verification procedure. It's your expected result and actual result. If you verify things and things are correct, you're going to have dark green. If things do not match, your expected result is different from what actually happened. For example, there was a change in coding, and now your admin is being written with lowercase, not uppercase. So your test is going to fail, and this line going to be in pink. Something else is happening on the bottom. Your log is being written, and your log is telling you what was actually happened during execution. You have your step-by-step recording of events. You see a list of all the commands that happened during execution, and you see values and target. And since we do not have any problems, everything is black font on white background. If you had a problem that was highlighted right here, you would have red color here. So a few screenshots to go through what I just went when I was explaining. So to review it and to summarize it, you have to remember to make sure that your record button is pressed. Again, make sure that it's on. Remember where to find your Verify Text Present option. It's under right click, menu, options. Remember that you have to stop recording by clicking on the red button, and when you start executing, this button should be off because you should not be executing and recording at the same time. Here are examples of verification points where it's dark green. You need to remember to put your lever to the right to make sure that you give your application and servers enough time to play things back in slow motion. Here's your color coding information. Now we're moving into another area, debugging. I wanted to show you this demo where things got wrong, where you have things that are highlighted in pink. So if everything is good, you're going to have dark green. If things start going wrong, you're going to have things highlighted in pink. Now, so far we were using a technique that is called record and playback. There is another part to this recording and playing back, is the ability to edit your script. And we actually have something in the script that I want us to edit to make sure that our script is better than it was originally recorded. As you can see, Selenium recorded one of our actions as click, and another, this one recorded as click, and this one it recorded as click and wait. Click and wait, in general, any kind of and wait option allows user extra few milliseconds, not just the user, but the user in terms of the tool, to wait for the next step to get presented. So pretty much every single command in Selenium will be better and more robust and be more reliable if it had, instead of click, it had and wait option. So what we're going to do now, we're going to improve our script. We're going to make sure that this click option actually allows you to wait a few seconds to make sure you get to the last page. Here's this autocomplete functionality of Selenium IDE. We highlighted our click command, and we get things presented to us at the bottom of the table view where we can edit things. So now we are in command field, and we're going to start typing A. Expecting all the options that start with click A to be presented to us, and they are. As you can see, we have click and wait, click add, and wait options presented. So we're going to select click and wait option and select that one, and pretty much our click turned into click and wait. So we just modified our original script that was recorded by Selenium IDE automatically. We're going to save our test case, and we can run it again now. We want to make sure that we have our application available, our scripts available. Click the right button and observe Selenium IDE executing our script now that we modified it. We gave Selenium IDE and we gave our application a few milliseconds to be able to complete our click and wait. And here we are, everything again is successful, no errors. Now, I moved away left side of the Selenium IDE view because I wanted to introduce you to everything within the table view. But now I'm bringing this part back. As you can see, Selenium IDE has these two areas that you can move back and forth. And this is the name of our test case, Selenium Test, if you remember it. The bottom part can also be moved back and forth, but it has slightly different functionality. You can simply get rid of the text, but you cannot get rid of the actual space below the table command. Few other options that I want to show you. On the options menu, there are options about how you can modify your Selenium IDE on a very high level. I clicked on options and selected the first option from the options, which is also called options, and I went to General tab. The General tab contains information about timeouts, about encoding, and about a few features that you can set up by yourself and play with them if there is something that you find convenient. So first of all, you can set your Selenium IDE not to start recording immediately on open. If you unselect this button, you will have to press the record button every time you want to record something. If you select this button, it's going to start recording for you automatically right away. Another option that is available is to remember your base URL, which is this one. Very handy option as well that allows us to remember the URLs on which you are conducting your testing. So that's a good one to have selected. Another option that is very helpful to have is record a cert title automatically. You want to make sure that you find yourself on the right page. Remember our discussion that after you click on submit, you're not really clear that you find yourself on the next page. Selenium IDE doesn't tell you anything about transitioning to another page. A cert title automatically tells you that you are on the next page, and if you find yourself on the wrong page, it's gonna stop execution right away. So that's another very important feature that you can utilize in your scripting. You can get your development tools. You can have your absolute URL compared to relative URL recorded. You have this basic set of options here available for that particular version of Selenium IDE. As I mentioned earlier, different versions of Selenium might have completely different set of options, and it's actually expanding. New things are being added, so you can customize your environment, your IDE environment for your purposes. Another thing that I want to tell you about is about where to find information about commands. You already learned two things about Selenium IDE. You learned a technique that's called record and playback, and I also showed you how to edit your scripts. To make your editing more effective and more robust for your scripts, you do have autocomplete, which we already reviewed. Your command area allows you to, command target and value area allows you to enter information that you need. You also have an option to insert new commands and insert comments and do quite a few debugging things using right-click menu. So when you are within Selenium IDE, right-click presents you with the option to insert new commands, to do some activities related to debugging, and actually another feature is ability to execute one command at a time. So if you don't want to use a button to play the whole test case, you can execute a specific command by using this option of execute this command. Information about commands can be found in this drop-down box. Under commands, it has a list of every single command available in Selenium IDE, as you can see from A to W. You're also going to find this information under Help UI Element Documentation, and you're also going to find it on SeleniumHQ.org website. So you have three places where you can locate this information and learn more about Selenium IDE tool. Right, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed Selenium IDE. Have fun exploring this functionality.